Hi there. This is Thursday morning, and this essay is called The Leap Barra and Fain Won't Make. And the subtitle goes A factory in Bavaria and a factory in Cleveland already settled the fight Mary Barra and Shawn Fain are about to wage to mutual ruin. The tragedy is that 90 years of combat has put the solution out of their reach. So here it goes. Two people looked at the same 50 robots at GM's Factory Zero this month and described two different universes. Mary Barra has said AI empowers our workforce to focus on craftsmanship, and that by merging technology with human ingenuity, GM unlocks new levels of innovation. Shawn Fain told the UAW convention that artificial intelligence and humanoid robots are a profound threat, that workers are in a fight for humanity, and that if the technology keeps being used this way, it has to be stopped. Same cobots, same assembly line, two universes. They are going to spend the next 2 years proving how far apart these universes are, all the way to the 2028 bargaining table. And here is what almost no one writing about this week's headline has said out loud. The fight that is coming is unnecessary, and the two of them cannot stop themselves from having it. Start by clearing the ground, because the headline itself is false. 50 robots did not replace 1,000 workers. The arithmetic alone kills that. The 1,000 went over the pasture because Washington pulled the floor out from under electric vehicles. The 7,500 consumer dollar credit repealed, the federal emissions standard rescinded, EV demand in the United States actually falling. In 2025, while it rose everywhere else in the world, Factory Zero builds nothing but EVs. The cuts were a policy story. The robots are a separate, smaller thing, an experiment. 50 cobots bolting panels alongside the people who remain. That is augmentation, not replacement. So the robot fight isn't really about these robots, but it's a rehearsal for the real one in 2028. Let me make a prediction I would stake my name on. The UAW knows it cannot fully resist automation because no one ever has. So it won't try to. It will extract a price. Sharp wage increases and job security guarantees bolted to the machines, some modern descendant of the Jobs Bank. The 1984 provision that paid laid-off members close to full wages to sit in rooms, playing cards, doing nothing. The Jobs Bank felt like a labor victory for 2 decades. It was a slow death. It helped price the Detroit Three out of their own market and was finally killed in the 2009 bankruptcy. I do not need to read about that one. I watched Buick City close in 1999 with that cost structure on its back. The union extracts a price for the robot. The price gets paid until it can't be. The money runs out. The plant closes anyway. A wage rent doesn't compound. It just runs until the money stops. And so the maddening part, the part that should keep a thoughtful person up at night, is that the better answer is not theoretical. It's been built twice on two continents, and it's sitting in plain sight. So let's go to Amberg in Bavaria. Siemens runs an electronics plant there that is roughly three-quarters automated. Turns out around 16 million units a year across more than 1,000 product variants, and holds a defect rate near 11 per million, manufacturing 5 to 10 times faster than a conventional line. It is the most automated plant of its kind in Europe. Now ask the question Fain would ask. What happened to the people? They are still there. Siemens didn't thin the floor, it moved the floor up into monitoring, programming, optimization, the judgment the machines cannot supply, and it invested in the retraining to get them there. And here's the part that should stop Fain mid-sentence. Those workers are not non-union. They are IG Metall, the most powerful industrial union on earth. And under German law, half the seats on Siemens' supervisory board, the body that signs off on the machines, are elected by labor. The union sits in the room where the automation is decided. That is not less union power than the UAW has. It has far more. Co-determination was written into German law in 1976 with an explicit purpose: to make investment in human capital profitable, and it does exactly that. Automation went up, and the workforce went up with it, in skill and in pay, because the people facing the machine had a seat at the table when it arrived. That is the formation route. It does not refute the union. It refutes the belief that a union must fight the machine. Then come home to Cleveland, about an hour north of where I recorded this. Because the second proof is American, non-union, and almost a century old. Lincoln Electric has paid its production workers by what they make, piecework, since 1914, layered a merit bonus on top since 1934 that in good years has approached a worker's annual base pay and has not laid off a single worker in its U.S. operations since, get it, 1948. Its people are roughly twice as productive as the industry, and some of them clear six figures on a factory floor. And here's the detail that should stop Shawn Fain cold. James Lincoln understood that a worker only welcomes a new machine when his job is secure. Security is what dissolves the resistance to the tool. Lincoln solved it in 1948 in Ohio with no union, no co-determination law, no Germany, the exact problem the UAW is preparing to fight to perdition over in 2028. Give a worker security and a real share of what he produces, and he will pull the robot onto the line himself. Look at what the two factories share, because that's the whole argument. One of them is union to its core. The other has no union at all. That's the tell. The variable that decides whether the leap is possible was never union or non-union. Umbug makes the leap on co-governance, a seat at the table where the machine is chosen. Lincoln makes it on trust, security deep enough and a share real enough that the worker pulls the robot onto the line himself. The UAW has neither the seat nor the trust, which is why it is left holding the only lever that remains: the strike and the price. In both factories, pay rises because capability rises. Amberg's people earn more because they are worth more. Lincoln's earn more because they produce more and feel safe enough to produce it. The gains come back to the worker as earned income tied to real marginal value, not as a rent extracted from a contract clause that the next downturn voids. That's the difference between the augment and develop route and the jobs bank. Capital is crystallized labor. The jobs bank crystallized a claim on labor that no longer produced anything, which is precisely why it rotted. Capability is the only profit that compounds. A developed worker keeps paying in quality, in problems caught upstream, in the next launch run faster. A defended job that produces nothing pays once and then bleeds slowly. So the leap is available. The proof is built. One of the two proofs is a 90-minute flight from Detroit. And Barra and Fain won't make it. Not because they're foolish, but because the leap requires the one thing GM and the UAW spent 90 years destroying in each other: the belief that the other side will not defect. Amberg works because German labor and management co-designed the transition and trust the split. Lincoln works because the workers trust that productivity will be shared and security honored, and management trusts the workers not to coast. Detroit has the opposite inheritance: the Flint sit-down strike, the jobs bank, bankruptcy, the 2019 walkout, the 2023 stand-up strike. 90 years of each side teaching the other that defection is the only safe assumption. They are built for combat, not for co-creation. And so they will stand within sight of a future that two other factories already inhabit and be unable to reach it. Two people, each of them half right, locked out by their own history of the very thing their better instincts are pointing at. So this is the quiet tragedy underneath the loud headline. Not robots versus workers, two adversaries who could both win, choosing because they no longer know how to choose otherwise, to both lose. The leap doesn't need a winner. It needs two things neither side currently has. It needs an instrument, a way to put developed human capability on the books as an asset that can be bargained over and grown, instead of leaving it invisible so that the only enforceable lever left to labor is the grievance and the cost transfer. And it needs a broker, someone neither side has to take on faith, to carry the proof across the 90-year gap. The future's already built in Bavaria and in Cleveland. The only open question is whether anyone can get Detroit to walk across to it before the next plant closes with a defended, undeveloped, and ultimately doomed workforce still standing on the floor. Thank you.